Well, hello, folks around the world, and how are you tonight? This is Luciano Santini, Motivation Key, and I talk a lot about leadership or motivation. I talk about engagement with staff, management styles. I talk about techniques with management. I talk about functional management. I talk about a million things in regards to leadership. And the one thing that I want to talk about today is how funny is it, and I know every single one of you out there have heard this before. Oh yes, you'll hear the top leadership how engaged they are and how they're always looking to have really good things happening in the world. And they talk about honesty, they talk about genuine care for employees, they talk about all these great things, right? But the truth of the matter is that in fact, when you really and truly approach people about this stuff, all they care about is where they're at in the political ladder, right? They they care more about their political cleverness, if you will, how clever they feel they think they are, or they think they are, how clever they really think they are in politics, and they really don't have any regard to their staff or how they really care about them. All they care about is how they feel how they feel and where they fit in their political career, if you will. But it's not really a political career. They care more about how politically correct they are, or how politically correct they are not. And so what I mean by this is when they're in meetings, and especially if staff is involved in these type of meetings, they will sound really good. They will talk about how engaged they are with their staff. They will talk about, in other words, they will say what they feel it is politically correct to say at that time, right? So if you're going into a new company, or if you're in a company and you feel that this is the type of leadership that you're really in reality dealing with, all I can tell you is to walk away, get out as soon as possible. Now, there are instances when you have to stay for whatever reasons, but there is so much of that in a lot of organizations. And I can tell you from experience that if you see it happening, fight it. Don't get stuck with it. Say something, or else you're the one that's going to suffer along with your staff. If you're managing or leading people and you have this type of leadership, you are going to suffer as well as your staff. So be careful for that. You know, the other thing I like to talk about is hierarchy and control. You know, these things are at odds with the demands for speed and agility. People can't change. You can't move fast enough. You can't adapt quickly enough if you're always trying to be in control, or if you fit in that hierarchical pyramid. Those things, you know, are just horrible. They don't work anymore. But yet so many leaders still get stuck in that mentality and still try to engage people, which they never do. They can never accomplish it in a fair or in a fair way with people, you know, because they're always trying to be in control. Now, the other thing that I want you to think about is that in many organizations, if you think that you're pretty smart and you know what they're talking about, and you know what you're talking about as far as leadership, or if you practice certain things like servant leadership or situational leadership, or those type of leaderships where it really takes a lot out of you, where you know you have to engage staff, where you know you have to be able to listen and understand what they're saying, because a lot of the times you don't. But now, you know my background, my research in psychology and leadership in organizational psychology. And one of the things that I find is that if you have people that have been around for a long time in leadership positions, and they see you and they know who you are, they know where you're coming from, they know your background, they know that you're really good at what you do, psychologically, what they will do, and this is just human nature, and I think most of us, you know, can understand this part of it, is that because of the psychology of it, is why people do what they do. It is my understanding, and I challenge anyone out there who is truly transparent with their staff and their company to tell me if I am wrong. And hey, I may be wrong, but it is human nature to gravitate towards people who are like you. So what I mean, if you have a leader that has that mentality, and they see someone that has the same mentality, or they know that they can manipulate, where they can have the same type of mentality, then those are the people that they will pull towards them, manipulate them, and get them promoted to their positions or to a position like theirs. Because this way, once that person is in that position, then they can manipulate what they do. And when you figure this out, you know, it's really hard to work under people like that. But when it comes to asking managers to surface leadership potential, or to bring out their leadership potential, the result is that they will typically choose someone like themselves. And here's the problem with that, is that what ends up happening is that you have someone that's been around for 30, 40 years with this mentality of hierarchy and control. And so they promote someone that they believe or that they know that they can manipulate to the way of their thinking. What ends up happening is that it hinders the corporation, it hinders your company, because all of a sudden you have someone just like the person before you. You have another person leading that is the same way as the person before, in a hierarchy, and that wants to be in control, which means they hinder anybody coming in with different ideas, different ways of thinking, maybe someone that can implement adaptation, that can adapt to change. But because you put someone in that position, guess what? You hinder change instead of moving forward with change and